Okay, so the ultimatum has ended, 7 days has passed. And just like I mentioned, there has been consultations, meetings by, other heads of states that are members of the ECOWAS. Even our president, who is also the chairman of ECOWAS, has sent a letter to the Senate, asking them to approve of the military intervention and all the plans that they have to towards Niger Republic. First of all, I want to know how you react to, ECOWAS being chaired by President Tinubu, their approach to, the whole coup situation in Niger Republic.
Once again, thank you for having me. I think to start with, it is not unexpected that ECOWAS as a body will want to restore democracy in Niger. The reason is not far-fetched, because if you allow the military to stay, it will send the wrong signal, because it will burden other military in other countries in West Africa, in the areas where you have ECOWAS as country. It will burden other military in those areas to tinker with seizing power. And it's understandable that no matter how bad democracy is, that the world's democracy is still better than the best military is something we need to understand. But unfortunately, I don't know how the people in Niger, the government, have gotten it wrong. But the point is, even the citizens in Niger are supporting the coup plotters. But again, in the circumstance, I think it's becoming extremely difficult for ECOWAS, because that is a situation where even if Mr. President have the intention of even deploying the military, the Constitution will not give him the express unilateral power. Because if you look at Section 5, Section 4 of 1999 Constitution as amended, it gives the National Assembly the right to give approval for deploying military in such operation. And it even have to be joint section of National Assembly comprising the Senate and the House of Rep. And we are seeing a situation where the Senate have decided to advise the President to go by way of diplomacy and dialogue. And we are seeing the President sent a high-power delegation to Niger, and all entreaty seem to be hitting brick wall. So the way it stands, I think the sanction is the best approach. I am aware that Nigeria as a country has started with some level of sanction, cutting off electricity, deciding to block all goods going into Niger. We understand that Niger is a landlocked country, so invariably the sanction will have effect.
Now, the president who was taken off from his presidential position in the person of Mohamed Bazoum was not brought in credibly when the elections were done, which of course could have been the reason why the Nigerians decided to take solace, even if it is not what is, desired, especially with the military presence right there, decided to take solace from the military president, the military personnel who has taken over the affairs of the country. What do you think would be the likelihood of future elections, looking at the fact that now we have military presence in Niger, especially with democracy? Is it likely to thrive?
I think the issue is Niger as a country, they need to deal with the attitude and orientation of their citizens. We have looked at since their independence in 1960 to date, they have had about 5 successful military coups. And it's not unlikely that even if you resolve this, that they are not going to have another one. So for me, even if the man, the ousted democratically elected president, the way and manner he came into office was questionable, but he was already recognized as democratically elected president by the world. So it's to that extent, all the world bodies like ECOWAS, even European Union, everybody's calling for the man to be restored. But for me, I think the way it is, using force may not be too appropriate. Even in Nigeria here, so many persons have raised concern about using force. almost every stakeholder, ranging from the political class, religious class, traditional rulers, perhaps because they are our immediate neighbor. And a country that is bordering with Nigeria in about 7 states. So if you have humanitarian crisis in Niger that has to do with refugee, I don't think we have what it takes to manage it. Look at when we had the issue of internally displaced persons that arose from Boko Haram and other insurgency. Look at how we are battling to solve the problem. So if you don't have humanitarian crisis that will result into refugee, I don't think Nigeria will have what it takes to manage it. And you cannot shut your door against them if they decide to come into Nigeria if that situation arises. So I think it requires a serious that Nigeria as a country, ECOWAS as a body, need to be circumspect in dealing with this issue.
So sorry, when dealing with this issue, I'm looking at the people right about now. If they decide that they are cool with the present government in place, irrespective of the fact there is a military intervention, what do you think will be the likelihood of future elections? That's what I'm saying. Is there likely to be a period where there will be an open election where a new person will be elected? Or are we likely to see, a dominance of a military presence right there in Niger?
It depends on how it's being resolved. Because if you are not able to give them a better option, and people see the military as a better option, you cannot force a government on the people. And it's even becoming more difficult now that the citizens are in solidarity with the military.
That's it.
Because even if you are going there for military intervention or to invade the country, you don't start shooting and killing everybody. So you need to orientate the people about, or rather what makes democracy better. And even if you give them democracy, let the government be of, people who manage democracy, do it in such a manner that they follow rule of law. So that when you want to bring another option of military, they will reject it. Because it appears as if the democracy was not working in that place. Otherwise, there is no way the citizens will start rejoicing over a military takeover of government. Even in Lagos here, Nigeria here, if you have an encounter with any Niger citizen, they will tell you that they don't know the business of Nigerian government in trying to oust the current president, the military president.
All right, let's look at the perspectives to this coup in Niger. Some other countries in that line, if you look at the map of Africa, you would find that some other countries, neighboring as Niger, have had coup situations that are currently have military personnel as, in place of government. And, some perspectives, or should I say schools of thought, have come out to say that this is an intervention from the West, more like a fresh scramble for Africa all over again. Others say it is a proxy war, like two elephants are fighting, the East and the West, of course, have a Cold War going on, and Africa happens to be the grass suffering it because we are, I don't want to say lower or lesser, but you know what I mean by that. Do you agree with these perspectives?
Well, I think, though I do not totally agree with it, but I think that is the reason you see ECOWAS as a body trying to make it unattractive. Because even if you even allow the government, the military to stay in Niger, it have a way of affecting other neighboring countries. Because if you have a country where the democracy is not working, the people are not getting what they bargained for, and the military decides to come in, the military will want to say, okay, we are not shifting ground. Because if the world, and ECOWAS in particular, do not have what it takes to unseat the military in Niger, it means if it happens elsewhere, it will be difficult to unseat them. So for me, having military government as neighbors to Niger is one of the reasons that we're embodying the military to take over. And if the Niger military men are allowed to stay, it can have a spill over to other African countries. Okay,
let's bring it home to Nigeria. I want to believe that part of the reason the Senate is not giving an outright positive response to President Tinubu's letter is because we kind of understand that Nigeria has their own interest. For example, we're like the largest exporters of crude oil in Africa. We have that clout. And there is this pipeline that, you know, that is currently on the ground that passes through Nigeria to Niger, all the way to Europe. And if anything happens to that pipeline, it is a gas pipeline. And, you know, there are schools of thought who have come out to say that that would probably be the first point of attack if Nigeria decides to spearhead this war, as is being talked about. Apart from that, there are a lot of other economic, should I say, negativities, consequences that would come with a forceful attack on Niger. Can we reel through these effects if a war suddenly breaks out?
To be quite honest with you, that pipeline should be a deterrent factor to Nigeria. But I don't think Nigerian government is seeing that as a deterrent factor. Because if you look at the worries, it's Nigerians, particularly the northern Nigerians who live in the north, that are the one who is expressing the worry. Well, if you look at the senators from the north, they vehemently rejected the use of force. Because by their own understanding, if war breaks out in Niger, that it will affect about 7 states in Nigeria. So it is not necessarily because Nigeria want to suffer economically by maybe having that gas pipeline sabotaged by Niger government. I don't think that is the reason behind why Nigerian government want to change option. I think it's mainly because stakeholders in Nigeria are rejecting that military invasion.